Okay, here we are today down at the Dawn Centre at the Ask, and we're looking into the new homeless review that's going on in Leicester, and I've got with me Andrew. Hi Andrew.
Hi.
Just going to ask you a few questions. In your experience, what are the main things that lead to somebody becoming homeless?
Oh, it's complex. I mean, it is so complex. In a lot of cases, but not all, but in a lot of cases it starts off with people who've been through care. People who've then gone from care either through other institutions like the mental health system, prison, or the army, anywhere where the institutionalisation that goes on in care carries on. Quite often involved in that, you've got the breakdown of families and relationships too. I mean, all of that comes from people being institutionalised. And then on top of that, you probably have mental health issues mixed in, along with maybe drugs and alcohol. It's such a complex problem. It's hard to define it in a straightforward way.
It doesn't really fit the stereotypes that most people have, does it?
It's complex and dynamic.
Yeah. And can you, in the context of that, give us a little bit of information about your experience of becoming homeless?
Okay. I spent 13 till 16 in care. To be fair, the living care team put me in a flat with some basic furniture and then waved goodbye. And it took me about 6 months to become homeless. I got no outside relationships. All of the relationships I had were based with either the care workers in care or with the kids in care. When you move from one care home to another, you build new relationships. When I moved from a care home into a flat out into the community, I had none of those relationships and support networks. They didn't exist with my family. It all broke down. It's been a cycle of that ever since. I get a flat, keep it for a couple of years, and then I have no social relationships, and it breaks down again, and I just don't see any point in maintaining the flat or maintaining the effort to keep a flat and then drift off out to the streets again.
Yeah. So again, that's complex.
Complex.
What do you think are the main things this homeless review should be looking at?
Who we really all are. From what I've seen of the document, it seems to define us into groups, and it seems to ignore the larger part of the homeless community, who are people like myself who I currently have a provisional tenancy with the council. It's all of 2 months old. I've had other tenancies before, I want to keep this one, I need to keep this one, but in order to keep that I need to maintain my social contacts, my social network, and these are other people within the homeless community, and they're not defining, the council aren't looking at that as an issue. They're not seeing the long-term implications of people like myself. They're seeing the short-term problem of people who are sleeping rough around the city centre. People like me become people like that because we have no social contacts and we have no integration within our group and our community and our friends, and they're not looking at that.
Right. Now, the council intend to use the new powers given to it by the government to offer some people private accommodation. Do you think this proposal will adequately meet the expected demand on services due to the welfare reforms?
Where do I start on that? Again, it's not a common problem. There are some people for whom shared housing will be absolutely appropriate. There'll be some people for whom hostels are the only possible option. Simply because of who they are and where they are in their lives and how much support they need and how much protection they need from other people and how much protection they feel they need to protect other people from them even. And none of that's being addressed. It's all being addressed as this common problem whereby we bring people in, we'll review them, and then we'll move them on into some sort of shared accommodation or private accommodation, and everything will be great. It's too straightforward, it's too simplistic.
Yeah. And if they do that anyway, do you have confidence that it will be implemented fairly?
Who's to judge? I won't comment directly on what I perceive housing options as doing. Housing options are there to police and enforce a system. Perhaps that's done well by some individuals. It doesn't have to be, as far as I can see. And in the same sense of the benefits agency, if it's not being implemented fairly, you have an appeal system and the rest of it. But if you live in rough and or sofa surfing at the desperate end of that, an appeals process is kind of a long way off from what you need in life.
Yeah. And do you think there's enough hostel accommodation across the city presently to meet demand?
As far as I'm aware, and I've had this figure quoted to me by several council employees, 95% of the hostel beds are filled 90% of the time, and this is throughout the year. At the moment, it's freezing cold outside, and I suspect they're probably over 100% capacity because they have extra cold weather beds and people sleep on the floor in the dorm at the dorm centre and other places like that. Right. So, is it adequate? No, there are still people sleeping rough. So no.
And the changes
will just slash and burn all of that and make it meaningless.
Right. But do you agree that people should stay in a hostel for the shortest amount of time possible?
I believe that where it's appropriate, people should stay in a hostel for the shortest time available. Where people have very specialist needs, or need the support, or need the protection from other people, or again, I'll state, need to feel that they are being protected from other people, because there are people like that too, then hostels are still an ideal, or if not an ideal, they're the best possible option right now.
Okay, and how do you think people who currently use the day centre will cope without a day centre in the future?
I don't think it's really registered that it's going to happen. People, it's actually incredibly difficult just to get them to sign a petition because they're not really aware that it's happening. They know it's happening, but it won't hit them until it actually closes. And people will actually still be turning up, who haven't heard about it or aren't just paying attention to it. So I suspect it'll be absolute chaos when it happens. People will suddenly start thinking, well, where am I going to go? And their options will be incredibly limited. That there aren't any other day centres that are going to be open for the homeless specifically, and the one that will remain, you have to be referred to and have specific problems in order to be referred there.
And should the council's one night out project only apply to new rough sleepers?
It can't. I mean, how's the definition of a new rough sleeper? How the council going to define whether they're new or not? I'm in the club, I'm part of the homeless community. I'll tell you who's a new rough sleeper or not. I know everybody in it, I know people who never come to the dorm centre. I know people the outreach teams have never heard of. Point being, how are the council going to know all of this? They're just not in that part of the club. They don't know who's new from who's not. And what's this definition of new?
Okay. What do you think the key is to not becoming homeless again? If somebody's been
community, it's being part of something. It's having a support network. It's being able to go and bitch at your friends or go and talk to your friends. It's being able to go somewhere and have a row with someone where it's safe. It's being able to be human, and that means other people.
So, do you agree with the cuts in homeless placements and advice centres?
I can only see that it's. All I can see, this is how I genuinely see it, they're going to be saving money initially, or appearing to save money initially, but ultimately, once they've slashed and burnt all those services, once all these specialist trained staff and all that experience have gone off and got jobs somewhere else, once the system and the discipline is broken down in the community too, because we are a community, we do have rules, there is a system within it, once all that's broken down as well, it's going to take the council another 10 years to rebuild it all, and that's going to cost them 5, 10, 15 times as much, and they're going to have to do it all from scratch. So, no, I don't.
And are you concerned that if the plans are implemented, it will have a negative impact on some people in the community?
It's going to affect everyone. I mean, I'm not going to go into the greater aspects of how this proposal actually affects anybody who's vulnerably housed, be they part of the community or not. But of course it's going to affect everybody else. There's going to be a lot more people rough sleeping simply because there won't be the emergency beds, simply because there won't be the hostel provisions, simply because the council and housing options will be under pressure to not be putting people in hostel beds. So there's going to be a lot more homeless people around the city centre. There's going to be a lot more people who would ordinarily be sitting up at Yas with their friends, just wandering around the city centre looking for stuff to do. Some of them are going to commit crimes. Some of them are going to be drinking. Some of them are going to be using drugs. It's going to be disruptive and it's going to be expensive. And no, I don't see it actually helping anybody anywhere.
And obviously, the results of the consultation should really be consulting with the people it's most relevant to. How user-friendly do you think City Council consultations are about the homeless review to people who actually are homeless?
we studied this form, we broke it down, we took it apart, we felt it was agree with us. You have to agree with us because we know what we're doing and you have no idea. It all seemed to be, from my point of view, it all seemed to be, we've decided who you are, we've decided what you need, and do you agree with us about us providing you with these provisions or not? I don't see us ever having been asked, or any of us ever having been communicated to us.
And the methods that it's made available, are they user-friendly for...?
We've had to provide it ourselves. What little response and what little response we've had from the community and feedback we've had from the homeless community, we've actually physically had to produce for ourselves. We've had to produce the council's documents, we've had to encourage people to fill them in, we've had to create the whole feedback network. Yeah, the council provided none of that. And
how about more and more services being forced online, onto computers? How does that affect the homeless community?
There's a high level of dyslexia amongst the homeless community, and the lack of education is another one of those common causes. The computers scare most people, and the idea of completing a form or especially a complex task like that document over a computer just intimidates them too much, and they won't do it.
Okay. Yes, if the day centre does close, which kind of places are people likely to go to?
For honest truth?
Yeah.
There'll be the library because it's warm, and there are computers there, and there are places to sit. It'll be the bus station, it'll be the train station, what else? Probably be the shopping centres too. Yeah. Places that are warm, where there are lots of other people, where you're going to try and merge in, because you don't want to be seen to be sat around on your own. It'll be stuff like that.
Yeah. Andrew, thanks for talking to me today, and good luck for the future.
Thank you.